And that's it for the class cards. Now we go over the neutral cards. Arcane Anomaly. 1 mana, 2/1. Whenever you cast a spell, give this minion +1 health. So yeah, the comparison to Mana Worm obviously comes to mind. It's like a reverse Mana Worm. However, it is definitely weaker than Mana Worm, since the initial stats are only 1 health, and yeah, 1 mana 2/1s you really don't want to play usually. So you have to play this on the same turn as a bunch of spells if you want to make use out of it. And yeah, this pretty much makes it a nice fit for Mage maybe. But it will have a hard time competing with Mana Worm and also with the Babbling Book now, so it's gonna be tough for Arcane Anomaly to find a spot in any deck. Runic Egg. Death Rattle, draw a card. So another cheap card draw tool for any deck that just wants to draw a bunch of cards basically, right? Because that's all this card is good for. Because it offers no board presence. It offers no value when it comes to trading and whatever. It's like you will have to buff it somehow, some way in order to make it kill minions. I feel like this card is actually better suited in decks that just want to draw a lot of cards. For example, the Raging Worgen OTK Warrior. This card is a perfect fit in that deck, in my opinion. Just get another card that draws you a card, and it's cheap. It's a cheap card. You're not going to have any troubles proccing the Death Rattle, considering you have so many Whirlwind effects. And yeah, I feel like this is gonna fit that deck the most. At least that's what comes to my mind right now. I can't think of anything else right now. So yeah, unless you are able to buff this somehow, this is obviously not gonna have any sort of impact in any other deck. So yeah, pretty good card for Worgen Warrior. But for other decks, it remains to be seen. I feel like there's better options though. Like, why would you play this over Dragon Egg, for example? Up next, Netherspite Historian. And this is another Dragon Synergy card. Really powerful at that. If you're holding a dragon, discover a dragon. So, yeah. I mean, the stats wise, it's not as good, right? It's a 2 mana 1/3, but it draws you a card. So, yeah, I can see this card being played in multiple dragon decks that are lacking 2 drops, I suppose. In Priest, I suppose you would rather have the Wyrmrest Agent, but a lot of other. And obviously in Warrior you have Alexstrasza's Champion. But yeah, for other decks, I feel like, yeah, for example, Dragon Paladin maybe. This card might actually be pretty good. Of course, you have to also be a control deck, I feel like, because this is based on the stats alone. It's just not a good enough proactive card, so you cannot put it in aggressive dragon decks like Dragon Warrior. Yeah, it's just because it's a card draw minion. That's what it's supposed to do. It draws you a card. It draws you a dragon, and you can get some pretty cool dragons, of course, with it. So it's generally going to draw you a pretty good card. Yeah, we will have to see how good this card is. It has a lot of potential in control dragon decks, but how good it will be exactly compared to other cards on the same mana slot, we have to see. Pantry Spider, 3 mana 1/3 Battlecry summon a 1/3 spider, so you get 2 1/3s for 3 mana. which is not really that impressive. It's like playing a... It's not really like playing a 3-mana 2/6 because yeah, it's divided on 2 minions, and those minions are just so puny. They're able, any kind of 2-drop can deal with both parts of the spider generally. I don't like this card. It's just too easy to deal with those critters, and I find it hard to believe that there's any deck that really makes proper use out of this Battle Cry. Nah, I just can't see it. Like, the first deck that comes to mind is a Hunter. Yeah, the first deck that comes to mind is Hunter, of course, because you get 2 beasts and it's like beast synergy and whatever, but Hunter already has so many 3-drops, so there's no way this card can compete with any card that Hunter can put into this deck that costs 3 mana, so no thanks, this card is pretty much unplayable. Alright, Compost Espeon, 2 mana 3/2 taunt, and it's actually quite decent, I would say. Obviously not as flashy, not as powerful as other options that are class specific, but this of course is a neutral card, and it probably is the best fit in taunt oriented strategies, for example Taunt Warrior. Yeah, it's a nice defensive card to have. I mean, often enough you see people playing 3/2s just to contest other 3/2s. And this card just does it the best, to be honest, because of the taunt, right? Like, say your opponent plays a 3/2 on 2, and your only option of dealing with it is playing your own 3/2 on 2. And yeah, this card basically does it the best, because then it forces your opponent to attack into it, instead of giving him the option to go face. So sure, it's not as powerful as it sounds, but in some situations, in some strategies, this might be a good card. It's definitely not a bad card, that's for sure. Up next, Violet Illusionist, 3 mana 4/3. We have a lot of those minions that basically do nothing, like 3 mana 4/3 with the useless power, and this is one of those kind of minions. During your turn, your hero is immune, so it's a very niche minion. At first, I actually thought this was a mage card, but it's actually a neutral minion, so it's actually less niche than expected, because this effect is actually really good for weapons, for weapon classes, now that I think about it. Yeah, so you play, for example, imagine you play Warrior, you play your turn to Fiery War Axe, and then you can just play this and attack with your Fiery War Axe and not take any damage. Sure, it's very niche, but still, I mean, it's still very niche. But if you can combine it, for example, with that, where is it? With a Fool's Bane, then all of a sudden you get a pretty sick combo. Like, you can, on 8 mana, you can just play Fool's Bane and the Violet Illusionist and clear, yeah, have 4 attacks without taking any damage. It's pretty good. Same concept with the Doomhammer, for example. You generally don't really want to attack with a Doomhammer into minions, but sometimes you have to, and then you end up taking too much damage. With Violet Illusionist, you just don't take any damage. So I feel like with cards like Doomhammer or the Fool's Bane, this card shines the most. Also, I'm not sure if this works, but if you can combine it with Cho'Gall, for example, I'm not sure if that works, if you actually take the damage. Oh yeah, but speaking of Warlock cards, right, like, speaking of Cho'Gall, speaking of Warlock, basically, this card basically guarantees you 3 life taps as well. A lot of cool synergies with this card, to be honest. The more you think about this card, how many synergies there are with it, the better it becomes. But still, like, it's very niche strategies, right? It's like nothing game breaking, nothing too powerful. So I can see this card being played as a one-off maybe sometimes, just to exploit some cards or some strategies. But it remains to be seen with which cards or with which kind of strategies this card can synergize the best. And yeah, definitely has potential. And the stats are not too shabby either. Like 4-3 for 3 mana is obviously good stats. Not as good as 3-4, because you'd rather have 4 health than 4 attack. But it's still pretty strong. Alright, up next, Zoobot. A mech. Not like we really needed any mechs anymore, but sure. Zoobot. 3 mana, 3-3. Give a random friendly beast, dragon, and murloc +1/+1. And this card has its uses, I feel like, in aggressive strategies. But I think it's too situational. When you think back, for example, to the days of Shattered Sun Cleric, right? In the beta, Shattered Sun Cleric was a 3 mana 3-3 that gave one of your minions +1/+1. So, and that was heavily played back in the day. But of course, that was back then, back when no cards. Yeah, back when there was just a limited amount of cards. However, this of course has a bigger potential upside because it can buff more than just one minion. However, the minions also have to be beasts, dragons, and murlocs, so it's gonna be really tough to set this up. It might even be tough enough to just set it up with one minion. But when your deck is built around beasts, dragons, and murlocs, then sure, I mean, Murloc obviously comes to mind. Sir Finley Murgleton, it's in every deck, pretty much in every aggressive deck you have Sir Finley. Beasts, you can have a lot of, like, I can see this card being played in Beast Druid, I suppose, right? Beast Druid with Sir Finley. Got Azure Drake, for example. As a card draw engine. Yeah. But I think it's overall, because it's also not a beast or anything like this, it's just a mech. It doesn't, even though it synergizes with beasts, dragons, and murlocs, at the same time it doesn't, because the card itself is a mech, so it cannot buff itself, basically, right? Like if you play another Zoobot, for example. Yeah, I think this card is too situational. I think there's going to be better options than this. But hey, if you manage to pull it off, the triple buff, sure, go ahead, try it out. But I don't think you're going to have much success with it. Up next, Arcane Anomaly, 4 mana, 3/2. So you get a 2-drop stats for 2 mana more. And the bell, so you would think the Battlecry would be insane. But then you see Battlecry is basically summon the Shield Bearer. So yeah, that pretty much says it all. No thanks. Might as well just play Shield Bearer instead and squeeze in a random 2-drop and pay 1 mana less. So nope. 5 mana, 4/4 Menagerie Magician, give a random friendly beast, dragon, and murloc +2/+2. So basically the same thing as Zoobot, but worse. Because it's more clunky. Or is it worse? Or is it better? Might actually be better, because by the time you reach 5 mana, you might already have those required pieces on the board. But then still, it's like you pay 5 mana. Like on average, you will have one of those 3 cards in play, right? Beast Dragon or Murloc, and then you give +2/+2. So basically, just play Silverhand Knight again, right? Because you have the 4/4 5 mana that gives that doesn't summon a 2/2 but gives +2/+2, which is pretty much the same thing most of the time. So no. No thanks. Next up, Avian Watcher, another secret synergy card. 5 mana 3/6, Battlecry if you control secret, gain +1/+1 and taunt. And this card is quite decent, I would say. Once you're able to pull it off, 5 mana 4/7 is pretty strong. It's pretty strong stats. Last time I saw a 5 mana 4/7 was Fugen, back in Naxxramas. And that card already had pretty strong stats on its own. Very strong stats for sure. And giving a taunt in addition to that, that's really good. So, yeah. This card is actually quite decent, I would say. It would probably fit a mage deck the best, I feel like. Because mage deck doesn't really have... Or actually, maybe even Hunter. Maybe it would even fit Hunter the best. Because the Hunter secrets are cheaper than Mage secrets, but not too cheap like the Paladin secrets, so therefore being bad cards on their own. But with a Hunter secret, it could be like the perfect fit for Hunter, especially when you combine it with the new Hunter secret card. I forgot the name, but you saw it before. The 3 mana 3/4 that makes the secrets free. You will have some secrets on the board. You can set up a Snake Trap, which is the perfect fit for Avian Watcher, because the Avian Watcher, you will have a Snake Trap on the board. Sure, your opponent will most likely then ignore the Snake Trap if he knows it's Snake Trap. He just keeps going face, and then you pretty much guarantee yourself that the Snake Trap will get procced, since you will have a massive 4/7 taunt on the board with Avian Watcher. Now, if this was also a beast, this would be the cherry on top, and like the obvious auto-include in any type of secret hunter. Yeah, I feel like this, along with that Hunter secret card, that this could be a pretty strong card. Definitely a lot of potential. I like it. I'm gonna try it out for sure. Up next, we got Stampeding Kodo 2.0, aka Bookworm. 6 mana 3/6 dragon. If you're holding a dragon, destroy an enemy minion with 3 or less attack. And this card is actually quite decent, I would say. It is quite good, I would think, in the dragon deck, because simply because of the fact that dragon curves generally used to lack 6 drops. All you had was the Draconet Crusher, and Draconet Crusher is really strong in aggressive dragon decks, as we've seen already in Dragon Warriors. But this is a really good control card. I mean, this is not an aggressive card by any means. This is a control card. So being able to destroy a minion with 3 or less attack, and it's not even random like with Stampeding Kodo. You get to choose the minion. So this is actually way better than Kodo. Of course, you have to hold the dragon, but that should be no issue, considering that there's already going to be so many dragons, so many playable dragons. You might as well even fit like make a deck with all your minions being dragons pretty much by now, and like a couple of low drops that give dragon synergy as well, so that are not dragons. But yeah, it's actually incredible. Like this is a perfect fit for control dragon decks. I like it a lot. maybe not like a 2-off. Maybe just play it once, because there's also a lot of good 6 drops for control based decks, Sylvanas of course, and whatever. But it's still a very strong effect. I like it quite a bit. Up next, Moat Lurker, 6 mana, 3/3, Battlecry, destroy a minion, Death Rattle, resummon it. Yeah, and this is the card that I was referring to when I mentioned Purify targets, right? You can destroy a minion and then just silence your own Moat Lurker to avoid the Death Rattle. So yeah, pretty much what happens with this is you kill it. Let's say you kill an enemy minion off. As long as you keep the Moat Lurker in play, the minion will be gone. But once the Moat Lurker dies, then the enemy minion will get resummoned, which is not good, really. What you can do though with this card as well is use it on your own minions, of course. So this is kind of a reincarnate play. Like we used to see some reincarnate shaman action back in the day. You could, for example, destroy your own Sylvanas or your own Cairn, get Death Rattle off, and then just resummon it, right? So basically activating Death Rattles multiple times. But this kind of effect on a 6-drop that is 3/3, I don't feel it's powerful enough. Just 3/3 sets is so easy to deal with. You cannot really guarantee. Basically, because it's a 3/3, you can pretty much never make it happen on an enemy minion, because your Moat Lurker will just die immediately and your enemy minion will get resummoned. So yeah, this is more of a either you silence your own Moat Lurker or you return it to your hand. It's also an option. Like you could, for example, Shadow Step it. Yeah, or you use this card as a reincarnate, basically. So you destroy your own minion, potentially even a damaged minion, because it resummons at full health, I would assume. So yeah. But yeah, the stats, I feel like, are just not impactful enough. Because if you consider this card to be like a reincarnate costs 2 mana, and then you pay 4 mana for a 3/3. That's just not good. So yeah, I probably would not play this card. But we might see some cool synergies with this. We'll have to see. Up next, Arcane Giant. 12 mana, 8/8, another one of those giants, and costs 1 less for each spell you've cast this game. So yeah, this is actually also a card with a lot of potential. And the first class that comes to mind, of course, is Mage, because Mage is like the clear-cut spell class. You cast so many spells as Mage in general, but also Druids nowadays also cast a lot of spells. Like when you see York decks, for example, right? You see the York being played in decks that run a lot of spells. So Druid and Mage pretty much are currently the best York decks, because they have a lot of spells at their disposal, and they generally play a lot of spells per every game. So Arcane Giant seems like the perfect fit for those kind of decks. However, I feel like this card could actually be the strongest in Warriors, and the reason for that is when you take a look at OTK Warrior runs a lot of spells as well. So this is pretty much the same thing as like with Frost Giant. You would have with Frost Giant in Control Warrior, for example, when you have like a Frost Giant OTK with Frost Giant Charge Faceless. You just hero power a bunch, and then you hero power a bunch, control the board and all that stuff, and then you eventually finish your opponent off with Frost Giant Charge Faceless, 20 damage to the face. Obviously, it's like a bit weak, but still viable. What you can do with Arcane Giant, for example, is play a bunch of like make it just like with the Worgen OTK, right? You, I think it's a weaker version, but it's a strategy. You know, it's a strategy that might work. You play a bunch of spells. You draw into your Arcane Giants. You play Arcane Giants, charge them, and yeah, go face. It's definitely weaker than Worgen, but it's also something that comes to mind, right? You draw your entire deck pretty much, cast your Arcane Giants. Yeah. On second thought, nah, this is probably not a good idea. But it's definitely something that might see playing, yeah, mage in mages that run a lot of spells, in druids that run a lot of spells. Just basically as a good value minion, right? I mean, who doesn't like playing an 8/8 for 4 mana? Of course, it will take some time until you get there, but once you do, maybe sometimes even a 0 mana 8/8, who knows? It's just really good. So yeah, definitely a card with potential. Up next, Morose, a legendary minion. 3 mana 1/1 stealth. At the end of your turn, summon a 1/1 steward. So basically a token generating machine, but of course it dies to any type of AoE. So yeah, it's hard to keep this engine going. Yeah, it dies to any type of AoE, so I don't see how this card actually can have any impact whatsoever on the board. Might as well just play Imp Master, honestly. Morose seems kind of like a joke, honestly. Like, is this card really serious? Yeah. No, nothing comes to mind that makes this card good, actually. Just dies to everything. You would have to buff it in order for it to survive longer, but then again, why would you? Oh my god. So, the effect is not even that powerful. If you would summon like 2/2s, then you might consider playing this card, right? Just summoning 2/2s at the end of the turn and keeping Morose alive as long as possible by just buffing its health. Yeah, no. I don't see this card being played at all. I can't think of any strategy that synergizes. Alright, so up next. Barnes, 4 mana, 3/4, Battlecry, summon a 1/1 copy of random minion in your deck. And of course, there is a lot of potential. This card has been talked about, one of the most talked about cards in the set, and yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential with this card. Basically because you can kind of influence what kind of 1/1 you will get if you only include specific minions in your deck, right? If you don't run a plethora of minions, if you only run a few specific minions, then you can always get what you want. But then the problem is that plan can also backfire, since since you might just draw the card that you want to get out of Barnes. But I feel like if you just have a lot of really good Death Rattles in your deck, like this can be a really good Death Rattle card, a really good card for Death Rattle decks. Like when you have a lot of good Death Rattle cards, you don't mind them being a 1/1. For example, a Sylvanas Death Rattle or a Cairn Death Rattle. Or you can get like an Ysera or a Ragnaros, those kind of end of turn effects, for example. Also, you're happy about them just being on the board. even if they're just a 1/1, because they give you the value that you need once you summon them. And sure, they die afterwards, but once they already got you the value that you want, then you're happy about it. And then also pretty much you have to think about it in a way that even if you just get a minion that does absolutely nothing, if it's just a 1/1, and then it's still not bad to play Barnes, because then you get a 4 mana 4/5 stats basically. So it's still a Yeti. A Yeti with a huge upside. So this card is quite good, I would say. I can definitely see a lot of strategies revolving around this card. Either combo oriented or just value oriented. Alright, up next, Prince Malchazar, 5 mana 5/6. When the game starts, add 5 extra legendary mains to your deck. So we have when the game starts. This is like a really unique effect actually, because it doesn't require you to play the card to actually get this effect, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I mean, of course, because of the randomness effect of legendary cards, you so weird, man. You can get like some really bad cards like Netpagel, Doorwalker Cho, but of course you can also get some really good cards. However, you have to think of it this way: do you really want to have those random cards in your deck messing with your synergy, you know? So I feel like the only reason to play this is basically to counteract, to just make your deck better in the mirror, right? Like make your deck back in the better in the control mirror, for example. Not only do you fatigue, do fatigue, you're not entering fatigue as fast as your opponent, but also you get some extra value, because the legendaries on average are gonna be pretty good cards. So that's more threats that your opponent has to deal with. So I feel in a control-oriented meta, this card can be pretty good, but if the meta remains aggressive, then it's just not going to have any impact whatsoever. It's just going to make your deck worse, because you're not going to draw the cards, the answers that you need against aggressive decks. You're just going to have some random legendaries. And this is one of them. This is also going to be a random legendary, because like 5 mana 5/6 does absolutely nothing. It's just a pit fighter. So yeah, if you know you're up against control decks and you play this in your control deck, it's gonna be pretty good. Better than Elise, even, I would say. But yeah, against anything else, not really. You could even play this and Elise in the same deck, I suppose, but yeah. It's kind of similar effect, basically. So yeah, good card if you're up, if you expect a lot of control mirrors to happen, but bad overall if the meta remains aggressive. Up next, the Curator, and this is like the final Beast Murloc Dragon synergy card. However, I feel like this is actually the strongest out of the bunch, because it is card draw, right? It is a card draw minion. It is a taunt minion, which is also a good effect. So taunt and card draw in one. It's pretty strong, even though it's like not really good cards that you draw out of it. And sometimes you just only draw 2 cards or even just 1. Considering if we, I don't know, it's like it's so tough. Like you should expect to draw 2 cards off this for it to be good, right? Because a 7 mana 4/6 taunt is not really that incredible. Generally, you would rather pay like 5 mana for that. So the battle cry that you draw 2 cards out of your deck is worth the 2 mana, I suppose. If you would only draw 1 card off of it, it's not good enough. And there's way better options. But if you draw 2 cards, thin out your deck, get better options. It can be decent. It can be a decent control card. It's so tough to evaluate it though. It has potential. It definitely has potential, but I feel like cards that draw cards, like this is clearly not a grip card. This is going to be a control card for sure. But I feel like cards that it's not going to be a good fit in the control decks because sure, dragons are good control cards, beasts, sometimes. Murlocs not so much. Sometimes you want Finlay, I suppose. So generally you should like expect to draw a dragon, to draw a beast. And but even then you'd rather just draw maybe some spells even in some situations to answer the board better, because this card only stalls a little bit, doesn't really put much board presence immediately on the board. Just 4/6, not good enough stats for 7 mana. It just buys you some time, basically. It seems a little bit underwhelming. I also feel like there's just way better card draw engines than the Curator available to those control decks, so I don't see Curator seeing much play. But if there's like some busted Beast Dragon Murloc synergy at some point in Hearthstone, then this will definitely see play. And this is probably the final card. No, yeah, I think this is the final card. Medivh the Guardian, 8 mana, 7/7. Equip Atish, great stuff with the Guardian. And this is so basically a War Golem for 1 more mana, but you equip the weapon immediately, which is a 1/3, and after you cast a spell, summon a random minion of that cost and lose to 1 durability. So basically you get you basically get a summoning stone as a weapon. So a summoning stone that's harder to deal with. No, just no. This card is too clunky. Way too clunky. Like if the meta is super grindy control on control and you got a bunch of expensive spells, then yeah, sure, maybe, but super unlikely this card will ever see any play. Only in some fun decks. Alright, and that concludes our review. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah. Enjoy one night in Karazhan, guys. See you soon.